This is TWiT.
Okay, so we mentioned this earlier, and we're getting back around to it now. We're now back in CES again. I don't know why I did the order the way I did, but whatever. The OnePlus 10 Pro wasn't officially announced necessarily prior to the show. I mean, OnePlus had acknowledged that it existed and had shown off a few renders of the design of the device. They had basically confirmed that it was going to launch in China next Tuesday. That's a week from today on December 11th, with no timeline for North America, Europe, or India. And Ryan, you actually wrote about that, but then you also wrote right before showtime that there was an embargo that lifted, and we know more about the OnePlus 10 Pro. So tell us what you think, or like what do they want us to know at this point? It's probably not everything, obviously, but what do they know?
Well, you know OnePlus's marketing. They tend to do everything they possibly can to try to dominate the news cycles for like 2 weeks ahead of a phone's launch. Drives me insane. I can't stand it. I hate it. It's so annoying. Having to write about every tedious new detail every day or two for 2 weeks straight is just god-awful.
It works, though, right? It totally works.
I guess it does, but I doesn't mean I mean,
from their perspective, it works because it continues to get articles written about it, instead of just
exactly, because if you don't do it, you fall behind. So it's all it's so annoying. I wish they would just do like a single launch like everybody else does. Whatever. So today they dumped a whole bunch of specs. Half of them don't matter. Aren't you glad to know the OnePlus 10 supports NFC and VoLTE? Like, great. These are marketable features that we should be putting on a spec sheet and revealing however long before launch. That's awesome. Excluding the superfluous and unnecessary details of today's announcement, there are a couple of interesting things to note. One is that the camera hardware, based on the numbers provided, which are not complete, it sounds like the camera hardware might be the same as the OnePlus 9. The resolution for the sensors, or the resolution for the triple cameras on the back of the phone, the dual OIS, those sound identical to last year's model. So unless they're using upgraded versions or different sensors that just happen to have the same resolution, which is possible, we might be looking at mostly software-based improvements for the camera, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Google demonstrated you can use the same sensor for like 4 years and still make great photos. If anything, they get better with time. So it could be OnePlus is going to fine-tune its performance here. But what I consider to be the most telling thing about today's announcement is the branding that OnePlus has opted to go for when it comes to both its wired and wireless charging. Now, I'm sure you remember OnePlus's Warp Charge, right? Everybody knows Warp Charge.
Yep.
Warp Charge is gone. It's not Warp Charge anymore.
Okay. What is it?
They're calling it Super VOOC for the wired charging and Air VOOC, if I'm pronouncing these correctly, for the wireless charging.
VOOC.
Yeah, those are the OnePlus marketing terms. So, those are the Oppo marketing terms. So this is like more of the Oppo-fication of OnePlus. Following the merger, now we're losing OnePlus's branding for features. They're going to give it the Oppo name. So I'm not too excited about the seemingly increased influence Oppo has over everything OnePlus. We lost Oxygen OS, which used to be great. Now it's just a Color OS skin. We're losing branded features, and these are some of the best features about the OnePlus phone. The fast charging is the fastest you can get in the United States. It used to charge at 65 watts, and now it's 80 in the new phone, which is great. But like, these highly marketable features are no longer going to be associated with OnePlus. They're going to be associated with Oppo, which speaks weirdly for me of the future here.
Yeah, and I think that was my big question coming in here is, what is the state of OnePlus going into 2022? We talked about this a little bit. Ron, you and I talked about this last month. I can't remember if it was the last live episode. I think it was, where we kind of talked a little bit about, how OnePlus has really changed in the last year or two. From a public sentiment perspective, and encapsulating everything you just talked about, Ryan, all of the changes, the Oppo-fication, as you put it, I like that, and what that means for OnePlus's brand identity, which for a while, at least in the realm of the enthusiast, was really strong. Like OnePlus had a very solid kind of enthusiast brand identity, brand recognition. A lot of enthusiasts really cared about what OnePlus was doing. But I've noticed, I've perceived a big shift in the last year, and that comes along with they're appearing in carrier stores to a wider margin. So maybe there's this perception that before it was kind of a boutique thing that you had to know about to get, and now everybody can get it. So maybe there's some of the luster, some of the shine is gone as a result of that. Maybe it's the deal with Hasselblad. I don't know. Like I don't really care about that. Like I think the camera system on the last major device was pretty good. So I don't know if Hasselblad deserves all the praise for that, or if that's a OnePlus marketing win, or what it is. But what do you think of the state of OnePlus as we head into 2022? Are they not as special as they once were at this point?
I would say that they definitely aren't. It's clear to me that their strategy has shifted from targeting the sort of enthusiast audience you describe, the people who buy pixels, the people who root and ROM. The root and ROM crowd is sort of a shrinking community. I don't think it's growing, though I don't have any numbers really to back that up, just a gut feeling. And the same thing goes for the pixel audience is going to buy really the pixel if they can afford to do that. The OnePlus was for a long time sort of the poor man's pixel. But with rising costs at OnePlus and falling costs at Google, I think that they've kind of lost that. And so wisely, they tried to expand into a larger market. They wanted to try to take some of LG's out of the market. They can take some of that market share. They can attack Samsung at the low end, which they're doing with the Nord series, especially with their T-Mobile partnership. So I think that that's really what they're trying to do, is they're just trying to capture market share, period. They don't care who it is anymore. They want to sell phones. And so if that means alienating the core, admittedly small, admittedly declining group, they're willing to do that. They don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it really does seem like things have shifted. I mean, it's not so much. Yeah, I mean, and things are. I don't want to say things haven't shifted, because they have shifted. But I feel like this is what happens with corporate alignment, and it's almost as if like it was time to pay the check. Like the bill came in, like like OnePlus took the investment from Oppo. They had the strategic partnership, and Oppo said, "Go do what you're going to do for all those years," and they did all that stuff. And now Oppo's like, "Okay, great. Now come back to the mothership," and it gets a little more. I don't say sellouty, because it's not like they sold out, but it gets a little less edgy, a little less daring, a little, and a little safer. And I mean, it gets a little less differentiated. OnePlus had a very specific kind of identity, and now the two have blurred together, and so it makes it less special. It makes it feel less unique, I suppose. Maybe that's it. A little bit more like cut and paste approach, which doesn't feel as compelling, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. So, OnePlus.